Hello, so welcome back. Let's continue for unit number 11, topic number 2, adaptive problem solving. There are times that when we are facing problems, there are some of us that doesn't have that much time to do research or do exhaustive analysis of the certain criteria or a certain problem. Or sometimes we can actually accept some risks because we can make reversible decisions when making or facing some problems. So in this topic, we'll be looking at some different adaptive problem solving that we can use instead of following that rigorous problem solving that was discussed in the first topic. The first adaptive problem solving that we can do or adapt is what you call decision staggering. In decision staggering, you can avoid total commitment to a decision that you cannot change, meaning instead of focusing all of your effort and resources to achieving or implementing a certain um, alternative, you can maybe find some alternatives or options that doesn't need to cost that much but may have the same effect. So let's say for example, um, you have a problem to the with your computer. Maybe it's um, becoming slow because of the softwares that you are using right now. And what you planned beforehand was to upgrade your computer to a higher end. However, you have a problem when it comes to the budgeting. So instead maybe getting a loan or borrowing money from your friends just so you could buy a higher end of a computer, maybe there are some available options that you can do which meets your budget or your resources. Like maybe you just need to buy or upgrade your RAM, or maybe if you are into graphics, maybe you just need to upgrade your video card, or maybe your CPU is already outdated and you can buy a compatible CPU to upgrade your unit. The point is, when it comes to decision staggering, instead of focusing all your efforts into just one a solution or one alternative, you are going to make incremental decision. This pertains to, like I said a while ago, this pertains to smaller options or other alternatives that may seem smaller in a sense compared to what you planned at the first, but can have a significant effect or can actually soothe or fix the problem that you're facing right now. The next one that you can do is what you call exploration. Exploration is also called as modified trial and error. It means that you are going to use available informations to probe for a solution. Like let's say for example, while doing your work, and then suddenly your computer or you experience this blue screen. So when it comes to exploration now, you are now going to list the possible alternatives or the possible solutions for you to fix this. Now you are going to try to implement one by one, or you're going to try to execute each alternative and see which would solve this issue. Like let's say for example, you tried restarting your PC or your computer but it did not work. And then you disassembled your unit and then recheck the mounting or the connections. However, it still did not work. And then you went to your BIOS and then you check and return the settings into default. However, it still did not work. And lastly, you reformatted your computer and it solved your problem. So that is the point of exploration. You're going to list all the possible alternatives or possible solutions to that problem, and one by one you are going to implement them and see which one will have the best result or see which alternative would actually solve that problem. Okay? Moving on, you can solve a problem by maybe managing it by exemption or maybe delegating it to another person. This is something that is very common or that this is something that can happen most of the time when you are working in groups. And if you are working in groups, always go back to your roles and responsibilities, and always check or list your priorities. Maybe there is a certain task that was or that you have listed down in your responsibilities. However, upon checking, it isn't really something that is directly connected with what you are doing. Maybe it is something that is more direct or more related to another person's job. So instead of you doing that, you're going to give it to that person because that job is related to what he or she is doing. But when you say delegating to another person, you are going to take the task or the job itself, and then you are going to give or you're going to tell the other person that he or she is going to do that. That is commonly called best sourcing. In best sourcing, you are not just going to give or determine that this activity or this task will be done by this person just so you say so. When it comes to delegation to another or best sourcing, you're going to understand or take note the strengths and weaknesses of each member or the persons in your group, and then you're going to identify which person is best suited to do that activity because of the skill set that he or she has. Maybe the activity is about video editing and you don't have any skills to do that. However, you have a member that is better or that is the best in um, video editing, so you are going to give the task to that person. Next one is what you call hedging. In hedging now, instead of you focusing again on one solution, you are now going to take all the different alternatives and then you are going to implement all of them. The difference of hedging versus the decision staggering is that in decision staggering, there can only be one solution that could fix your problem. However, in hedging, the alternatives are things that can have similar effect or that has similar risks or that can all be implemented and have the same equal opportunity and risks behind them. The advantage in hedging is that you have more things that you can implement, and in this way, you the rate of failure becomes lower because maybe your option A, or maybe for this example, is that you won in the lotto and you won a couple of millions, and then in option A, you first thought that you are going to put it all in the bank. However, you were hesitant, so instead you put it in an investment, you put up a business, and you bought a house. In hedging, the idea here is that even if one falls apart, like maybe the business falls apart, you still have ongoing other options that is happening. That way, you wouldn't really be losing everything just because one does not give proper outcome. Okay? Next is what you call intuition. Intuition, now, these are the options that are based on your experience, values, emotions, and your heart. Basically, these things comes from your gut feeling. This is a type of decision making wherein you base it on what you think is wrong and right just because you feel or you think that it is wrong or it is right. You are not really going to depend on the logic. However, when it comes to intuition, there it could result to snap judgment or rush decisions that may have a greater repercussion or consequences at the end. So whether you are doing in decision making by intuition, make sure first that you are going to understand what the problem is, and then you're going to list maybe your different alternatives before you go to your gut feeling, as a way to decide or choose which of those alternatives you think is best. That way, the risk of failing is lower. The next one would be delaying versus vision opportunity and options. Delaying is letting time solve itself, or letting time solve the problem itself, because there are some problems that we think that is very important, or that we think that needs immediate attention. However, if we are just going to leave it by itself, it will just go away. However, there are also some types of problem that if you are going to face them right now, you might regret it tomorrow, because you had in that tomorrow or in that future, maybe you have more resources. Or maybe, let's say, for example, you are rushing your activity right now. However, the deadline isn't really tomorrow, or the deadline isn't really today. So maybe you can just do it tomorrow. In that way, you would have a fresher mindset and a better perspective for you to do the activity. In these two, the delay means there is a possibility that you can um, not do the or not implement or not or try to ignore the problem or the situation, because there is a high likelihood that it would just go away. But when you say vision, opportunity, and options, you are going to consider the different opportunity or the different options that might happen tomorrow, that might affect or that could affect your situation right now. Okay? So those are the different adaptive problem solving that we can use if we don't really have that much resources or lacks time to implement a thorough problem solving.